July 25, 1944, arrived without warning on the Fonte Plateau of Guam. The jungle did not announce what was coming. There were no trumpets, no speeches, no final declarations of intent. Only movement. In the thick tropical darkness before dawn, more than 3,000 Japanese soldiers slipped through ravines and tree lines like shadows without weight, positioning themselves around the exhausted Marines of the 3rd Marine Division. The Americans had been fighting for days without rest. Ammunition was low. Food was scarce. Men slept in minutes-long intervals, boots on, rifles in their hands. They were spread thin across broken ground, dug into foxholes scraped out of coral and mud, surrounded by jungle that concealed everything and revealed nothing. Lieutenant Colonel Edward Wenzel sat low in his command post, radio pressed to his ear as reports came in from positions scattered across the plateau. Each transmission carried the same undertone: pressure, movement, contact just beyond sight. His perimeter was wide, his men stretched to the edge of exhaustion. Every manual ever written said the same thing: when you are surrounded and outnumbered 3-1, you dig in and wait for daylight or reinforcements. But Guam offered neither mercy nor pause. The Japanese knew exactly where the Marines were. They had watched them for weeks. They knew which foxholes were shallow, which ridgelines were thinly held, which routes Marines used to move supplies and evacuate wounded. They knew the Americans had nowhere to retreat. When Lieutenant General Takashi Takashina gave the signal to attack, he believed the night would deliver a decisive blow, one that would break America's executing a textbook encirclement designed to isolate units and destroy them before dawn. But Takashina had made a fatal assumption. He believed surrounded troops would withdraw or collapse. He believed fear would break cohesion. What he did not understand was that American Marines reacted to being cornered not by yielding ground, but by they had moved through terrain doctrine said was impassable, using jungle paths invisible on American maps. Surprise should have carried them through. Instead, they walked into registered kill zones. Browning water-cooled machine guns opened up, firing sustained bursts that stitched the darkness with lethal precision. Infantry attacks dissolved resistance on Guam forever. At 0300 hours, the first artillery shell screamed overhead. The sound cut through the humid night like tearing metal, followed by an explosion that shook the ground 50 yards from Wenzel's position. Dirt rained down from the roof of the command post as the jungle canopy splintered. The counterattack had begun exactly when under interlocking fire. The Japanese had planned for resistance. They had not planned for fury. As the second wave pushed forward, gaps that should have opened never appeared. Marines from adjacent sectors moved without orders, reinforcing threatened points instinctively. Radios stayed clear. Coordination held. Darkness failed to neutralize American advantages. By 0500 hours, the third wave was advancing over the bodies of the first two. Nearly 800 Japanese soldiers had already fallen. Takashina believed the Marines were close to breaking. He committed his final reserve. Doubt crept in as the sun began to rise. Reports told him Marine positions still held. Casualties were catastrophic. Entire regiments were combat ineffective. Still, doctrine demanded one final push before daylight exposed his forces to artillery and air attack. Veteran units surged forward with grim discipline. What they met were Marines calling for more ammunition and requesting permission to counterattack. Near the hospital compound, Sergeant Taro Matsui led a 20-man infiltration squad through a ravine meant to bypass American defenses. Their mission was to destroy medical facilities and sow chaos. They had rehearsed this assault for weeks. What they encountered instead, refusing to give any more of it away. As Japanese assault waves struck the perimeter, something unexpected happened. Marine positions did not thin. They hardened. Men dug deeper, fired steadier, and fought harder. Private First Class James O'Connor crouched in his foxhole on the southeastern edge of the line, watching tracer rounds streak through the darkness like burning insects. He had been on Guam for 11 days. This was the first time he had seen Japanese troops advancing in organized waves instead of scattered probes. Through his rifle sights, he could see 3 distinct formations moving forward. Fear should have overwhelmed him. Instead, something colder took hold. His breathing slowed. His hands steadied. The jungle around him erupted as Marines opened fire. Japanese planners had targeted American artillery first, believing the Marines' defense depended on it. What they did not know was that Wenzel had anticipated this exact move. The howitzers had been repositioned the afternoon before to secondary sites that were not marked on captured maps. Enemy mortars pounded empty emplacements while Marine gun crews were already setting up hundreds of yards away. At 0345, the 155mm guns began firing. Each shell was called in by forward observers who had memorized the ground inch by inch. Muzzle flashes became death sentences. Entire assault lanes vanished under precise, crushing fire. At 0400, the first Japanese wave reached the outer wire. Was a reinforced Marine security detail placed there hours earlier based on intercepted radio traffic. When the Japanese emerged at 0600, they were met by prepared fire. The fight lasted 17 minutes. It ended with Matsui dead in a drainage ditch, his squad wiped out by Marines who had expected them. Across the plateau, Japanese units began pulling back without orders. Discipline fractured. Communications failed as artillery destroyed command posts. At 0645, Wenzel released the tanks. 5 Sherman tanks rolled forward, their engines cutting through the jungle. Infantry moved with them, preventing close-range attacks. Japanese anti-tank weapons were useless at distance. The psychological impact was devastating. Units broke apart. By 0700 hours, the counteroffensive had collapsed. The Marines held. American casualties were light compared to the scale of the assault. Ammunition ran low, but morale surged. The battlefield belonged to the defenders. As the sun climbed higher, Wenzel surveyed the plateau. Japanese dead lay thick along every approach. Orders came to advance. By noon, Marine artillery systematically destroyed remaining cave positions. By July 27th, American intelligence predicted, but not with the restraint Japanese planners had promised. Mortars fell in waves. Machine guns opened from hidden positions. The radio crackled non-stop as battalion commanders reported contact from every direction. 3rd Battalion was under heavy mortar fire from the north. 2nd Battalion saw muzzle flashes moving through the tree line to the east. Near Asen Point, Japanese infiltrators were already firing into the hospital compound. Wenzel did not shout. He did not hesitate. He had fought through Bougainville and knew panic spread faster than bullets. His voice stayed calm as he issued orders, shifting platoons, reinforcing weak sectors, reminding commanders of fallback positions that existed only in memory and training. Captain Frank Bibb's voice cut through the radio from the eastern slope. His battalion was being hit by what sounded like an entire regiment. Knee mortars, machine guns, coordinated fire from positions prepared in daylight. The enemy had studied every American habit and American forces controlled the high ground. Japanese resistance dissolved into scattered groups. In a ravine later that afternoon, Lieutenant General Takashina attempted a final charge. He was killed by Marine rifle fire. With him died organized resistance in that sector. Private O'Connor walked past the hospital compound he had defended, counting enemy bodies. 17 lay where they had fallen. He had fired 43 rounds. He felt no triumph, only exhaustion and a quiet understanding of what survival had cost. By July 29th, the Fonte Plateau was secure. Guam was effectively won. Casualty counts told the story: over 3,000 Japanese killed, fewer than 200 American casualties. The Marines had not only survived encirclement, they had destroyed the enemy's ability to fight. Years later, bombers would taxi over concrete poured where foxholes once stood. But on that night, in 6 hours of darkness, surrounded Marines rewrote the outcome of the Guam campaign. They proved something their enemy never understood, that when American Marines are cornered, they do not collapse. They close ranks, dig in, and fight until the battlefield itself belongs to them. And that night on the Fonte Plateau, they did exactly that.